A busy weekend for the Colorado Avalanche that started with freeing up some much needed cap space. Let's talk about that in a new episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. If you want to get in on the conversation, then join our subtext. The link is in the show notes below. Chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, and share it right here on this very podcast. We haven't been able to get to grades because there's been a lot of happening. So we'll pick that back up tomorrow. We're kind of winding down there, but there's, it was an important and a busy weekend. We thought it was just going to be the draft, which wouldn't have been much for the Avalanche. And overall, it still wasn't a lot, but they added one pick to their two that they had in the 4th and 7th rounds, which we hardly talked about this draft going into it, because when you have a 4th and a 7th, there's not a lot to talk about. But before the draft, heading into the weekend, the Avalanche made some pretty big news in their world anyway, and made a pretty big and significant trade with Columbus. Like I said, it added a draft pick this year and another one next year. But they get rid of Charlie Coyle. They get rid of Miles Wood. They send them to Columbus. They get back a 3rd-round pick this year. They get a 2nd-round pick next year, and they get prospect Gavin Brindley. It's a really nice piece of GMing from Chris McFarland, and I just want to get your thoughts on the whole thing, and then we'll kind of break it down.
Yeah, it's funny. We lose Coyle and Wood over the weekend. That's one less grade we have to do. We're doing it alphabetically.
One less,
Miles Wood.
Did we even do Coyle? I can't remember if we did. Yeah, we did. I think we did Coyles. Yeah.
But no, when I saw the way it broke it was interesting as well. It was Charlie Coyle's being dealt. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then because the current state of like the Avalanche, you're like, okay, instantly you're thinking it's money. You're like, okay, what does that free up? Okay, that'll be nice. And then you're hearing, oh, Miles Wood is also part of this. You're like, oh, that frees up a good amount. And then you're like, what is the return? Like, even at this point, you're just like, I don't even care if they just send a can of Coke. Like, I don't care. Like, that's awesome. They freed up some space. And with a extremely shallow future for the Colorado Avalanche when it comes to prospects and draft picks, to get Gavin Brindley, like that's something they can work on. Absolutely. He's got upside. I'm hearing a lot of good things about him. I haven't done a deep dive into him, but everything I'm hearing and seeing around him seems positive. So you freed up cap space. You have a potential hobby project coming to the future. I mean, here you go, Chris. Take your victory lap. Chris McFarland can do some GM things.
It checked all the boxes, right? Yeah. Like you got a prospect, and a very good prospect back. You got draft capital back, and you freed up cap space, which was needed, and could the Avalanche had done some minor things just to be cap compliant, because they didn't need to sign many more guys just to get to 20 guys signed and then be okay. But they felt like, no, we need a little bit more breathing room here with the cap. And we talked about it, how Chris McFarland and the Avalanche as a whole were just saying, like, we like what we have. And we did a whole show on don't expect much from the Avalanche in free agency because they were so tight to the cap. That changes a little bit now. You got almost $9 million to play around with. And although, like, the Coyle, I think it's different on how you're getting rid of both of these guys. Coyle, I think I would have loved to see what he could have done this year. I think he could have had a very good, solid year with this team in that 3rd C role. It would have just been a good year for him, I feel. The Miles Wood thing, he just kind of wore out his welcome. He was getting benched, and but you know what you're getting with Miles Wood, and I think the Avalanche just said, if we have the opportunity to unload $2.5 million, as tight as this world is with the cap, we're going to do that. And for the Blue Jackets to take that on was a little bit surprising. I don't think people are happy in Blue Jackets world right now because they're probably fine with Coyle. I don't think they're too happy with Miles Wood, and I know they are not happy giving up Brindley.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't. Yeah, when you think about it on the flip side, like, what do Blue Jackets fans? I mean, yeah, you got some veterans coming in, which is nice to whatever you're building, and I guess that is appealing for some. But I mean, that's giving up a future like that and absorbing that much of a cap hit probably isn't great. But I mean, yeah, they wanted to run this back, but again, like, it's so different. Like, you have Brock Nelson played the same amount of games, is getting 7.5, and then the guy right below him, the same amount of games, he got traded out for a cap, like, to fix the cap. And like the Avs have, I mean, they have to sign Sam Olinsky. That'll be their 6th D-man, and they probably need one more forward, and it'll bring them to that 20 mark. But you have the options now. You could either sign your Band-Aid pieces like you have been, or you can actually be one of these names that are floated around and taken seriously when the free agency market opens up. So this opens up a lot of possibilities for the Avs, and I'm glad I'm not a Columbus fan, but I'm glad they exist because they got to take on these deals that we did not want.
When you look at what the Avalanche could do here, like, yes, they have a little bit more cap flexibility, but that does not mean they're just going out and can just make it rain with money here, right? Because if you got rid of Charlie Coyle, who's making 5.25, you're not going to go sign a guy who makes about that much money. Like, then why would you have gotten rid of Charlie Coyle? If you're just going to go turn around and sign another, I know you got rid of the Miles Wood contract too. That does free it up a little bit. Then why wouldn't you just get rid of Miles Wood? You know what I mean? So I sure, it gives them a little bit more money to play around with, and you can be somewhat of a player here. But I'm really interested to see what they do with this money, because are you going to get a guy that is as good as Charlie Coyle? I don't know. And we've talked about the center free agency market, which is not the best this year. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with this money, because like I said, like you can't go out and then all of a sudden spend more than what Coyle made. That wouldn't make any sense to me.
Well, and see, I haven't seen anybody else theorizing or talking about this. And when I saw this move happen, it just all kind of clicked into place. And tell me if I'm goofy here, but does this not just scream they're giving Ross Colton the 3C to just see what that looks like? And if it doesn't click, then we're talking the trade deadline when it rolls around. That might be a piece, but they're giving him that 3C, and you got Drury at 4C. And if you have to band-aid a piece on a wing, that's fine. But we talked about center depth free agency. It's not that appealing. Like, it just screams like Ross Colton's going to be your 3C.
And I think they would be okay with it. I mean, they've had him for a couple of years now. They know what they're getting out of him, right? So I that might be the route that they go. And then that leaves things open to sign. And we've heard that Drouin is going to test the market. We'll see what he gets. Maybe, if things are about equal and, he likes it in Colorado, maybe he comes back if they want him back. You have Kiviranta out there, which will not cost a ton of money. So, you could continue to bring guys back. But what I think this leaves money open for, if they want to go that route, is Ryan Lindgren. If you're looking at defense and you want to lock up your defense and shore up some defensive positions here, that does leave money open for him. So getting rid of these two guys, if you sign, because I think they only have 16 signed now.
I believe so. Yeah, 16.
But if that leaves your money for Malinsky, Lindgren, Kiviranta, and Drouin, you are still running it back with all those guys, but that gives you the freedom to do that or come really close to it. So, but I'm with you in the camp of the Colton thing, because I don't like what's out there in free agent centers, and Colton can play that role. He's a couple years with this team, so he knows the whole system. Like, it would make sense to go that route. It really would.
And it almost, and you say like Lindgren might be that guy that they run back and bring back, but with this money now, you don't have to. Also, you're at the point now where you're not like, let's just get everybody back.
Look other
like
places, sure.
Yeah, you can look for somebody with the equivalent value, whether it's AAV or production, and say, hey, we got money to spend. We could bump it up a little bit. What's available out there? If we're bringing back Lindgren, can we bring back somebody that has a little bit more presence, that can bolster our defense just a little bit, because you have the ability now. So it opens the door for a lot more. If they want to run it back, they can do it. But if they want to run it back, then some, they can do that now too. This offseason completely changed with this just one move.
And just to talk a little bit about Gavin Brindley. So when the Avalanche have a first round pick, I go all in with drafts and prospects and stuff. Like, I absolutely love it. It was nice to have a little bit of a break to not do it this year, but I do really enjoy doing that. And his draft year, and I posted this on social media if you follow over there, like, I had him as the third guy for the Avalanche. I had Gulyayev as number 1. I had Andrew Crystal as number 2, and I had Gavin Brindley as number 3 for them. I really like him. He's one of those guys that the fans love, and he wins over the fans because he's got a motor. He goes 100 miles an hour every single shift he's out there. He will give you everything he's got. You know, he's got a decent amount of offense, but he will work. He's that guy that, like, defense comes first type of guy. Like, he will work his butt off on the defensive end, and he'll give you everything he's got in the offensive end. And he's young. So, he didn't play a lot. I think he only played one game last year, but he's 20 years. I think he just turned 20 years old. So, look who the Avalanche drafted the year he was there. Callum Ritchie and Gulyayev. And we haven't seen much of either one of them either. Yeah. So he's in that same draft class where those guys are just starting to develop more, and more is expected of him. And I think, he might be another year or two away, but you'll see him in the preseason. And who knows, with Avalanche and injuries, maybe they bring him up for a couple games if that's the case of an injury, giving him a shot. But I don't expect anything like immediate. But long term, he could play a role. He's not a guy that's going to crack the top line. Probably won't. I mean, he could be a middle six guy. I'll say that. He could be a middle six guy, but he's an exciting player. And he went to the University of Michigan. So you got to know how to play hockey if you're going to the University of Michigan, which is my boys. So to get him, I think that's where, the Blue Jackets fans maybe are angry the most. I think they can live with who they brought in, but I think, drafting him when they got him early in, I think it was a second or third pick in the second round, so essentially like a first round pick extended. Yeah. They're really angry about that. So that move right there was a really, really crafty move from McFarland to bring him in, because their pool is thin and he helps it out for sure.
Yeah, it gives a potential for some future kid lines, and like that. Sure. We talk about it all the time, like that time that Alex Newhook was coming up is just wait till Newhook joins. Like, this is somebody else that you could sit and see how he works with the Colorado Eagles and really give it some time. And this could be something that a couple of them could come up together and really play well together. So it's nice to talk about the future.
It's not. Yeah, it is. It is. And speaking of the future, we had a draft that the Avalanche added another pick. So they had 3 picks. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about the draft as a whole, this whole decentralized thing, which just did not seem to go over super well. So a lot to talk about there. We'll do all of that coming up next. Let's hear from FanDuel, everybody. So summer sports are in full swing. And whether you are all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green. Are you a golfer, Kyle? I never asked if you're a golfer.
I play golf occasionally.
You dabble?
I dabble.
You dabble? All right. Or high stakes soccer action, or even horse racing. FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. and you're already following the action, why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach, which isn't, I mean, you don't want to get sunburned, but beach just sounds good as well.
Yeah.
But FanDuel, yeah, you know what I mean? FanDuel, use the app. You can get sunburn while using the FanDuel app on the beach. You can do all of that at the same time. Why not?
I can live with that.
So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and you get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Over at FanDuel, download the app, have some fun, do it responsibly today. All right, so the Colorado Avalanche add that draft pick, so that gave them a 3rd, 4th, and 7th. And look, these right now, these are the best 3rd and 4th round and 7th round draft picks in the league, and all 31 other fan bases are saying the same thing.
Yeah,
like you always love these. It's so different in hockey, the draft, because it's I think more than any other sport, everything is front loaded in the first round. Where like football, yes, the first rounders get the headlines, but you always hear that in football, teams are made and drafts are made in those middle rounds. And that's true. You get a lot of value, and those guys are expected to give you as much as those first round guys, but the headlines are first round. That's true for every sport. Hockey is different, where all those subsequent rounds, it's a long shot for so many of these guys to make it. And when you have your 3rd round and beyond guys, you like them, you root for them, you want them to do well, but how many times that they really turn that corner and become true everyday players, it just doesn't happen a lot. They could be career AHL guys, and that's fine. That's a nice career. But I always go to guys like Sampo Ranta. I think we all thought Sampo Ranta was so you got his jersey. I have his jersey too. Guys like that. Even right now, Jean-Luc Foudy, he was a 3rd rounder. So you put so much stock when you're a fan into these guys, thinking that they could crack the team, and you hope that they do. But for the Avalanche this year, they went further. 2 out of their 3 picks, they went defense. Their first 2 picks, they went defense. Does that tell you anything, or do you feel like when you're at that stage in the draft, it's just get what you feel is the best possible player?
Yeah, I feel like especially deeper in the draft, you're going for just value. You're going for not just what you could bring to the team, but if I have to flip or move this out or additional piece, every team needs a defender. So yeah, I mean, it's nice. It doesn't really scream the writing's on the wall. They're preparing for no, they're just doing hockey business. That's best pick at the time. I don't feel like there's this huge deficiency there's a deficiency in the future for all positions. So they pick best available. They're going to be fine with best available, and when best available arrives in the AHL, they're going to see last year's best available and the year before that's best available. And then you got to cut it. You got to take that step up. And that's where you make your name in the NHL, is those guys that step up. And that's what I'm looking for.
So as far as the Avalanche, their first pick, they had the 77th overall in the 3rd round. Defenseman Francesco Dell'Elce is the name. That is a fun name to say. I'll tell you, say that in full all the time. Just rolls off the tongue. You love it.
I'm rooting for him to make it just so Connor has to say that.
He has to say it. The interesting thing with him is he was undrafted the last 2 drafts. So, and that's fine. I think some people look at that and be like, oh, then why are they picking him? And well, he's older. He's a couple years older. He filled out his game. He's playing a more consistent game, and he is older now. So I think the Avalanche maybe are looking at it as, it'd be nice to have a guy that doesn't need as long to possibly make a dent in the roster here, because things might be changing on, like you're saying, things might be changing on the defensive end here pretty soon. So if you have a guy he's 20 years old already, So if you have a guy that maybe only needs like a year, 2 at the most, to kind of get his foot in the door, I think maybe that's what the main reason why they went that route. Because look, I don't know a ton about him. I know a little bit about him because he went to UMass, but I feel like it was a little bit of a reach for me. And I maybe the Avs are in the position where like, hey, it's the 3rd round. Are we going to wait another round? Because he probably could have been there for their 4th round pick. Why wait? If we like him, what's the difference between going 3rd and 4th round for this guy? So they went after him. They got him. They like his height. I know that he could probably add a few pounds if you ask me. Because what's he at? Do they have his? Let's see. I can't find it here. I don't know what it is, but anyway, like I think that's the main route they went that way, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it just screams like when I saw his bill, I saw his stats. It just screams like this is going to be a part of a future package to get the defender they want.
I don't like to look at draft picks like that. I don't like to look at like prospects and say the only reason we're drafting you is to package you in a deal for the future.
It didn't feel like there's those moves that they make and those draft picks they get that you're like, oh yeah, when he makes his way up, it's going to fit. Like this one, I don't know. I don't know if it was their attitude because of all the noise that was going on before the draft, but these draft picks, they are good, but it didn't feel like this is going to be like a potential piece because honestly, nothing is developing for the Eagles right now. Nothing's popping up and coming around. Mm-hmm. Could these be the answer for that? I'm unsure, but especially like if you've gone undrafted the last 2 years.
Yeah, you just at this stage in the game, and that's true for every team. You just don't know with these guys. Like you're drafting on, like I said, I don't really feel like you're drafting on so much need at for a 3rd, 4th, and a 7th. But maybe a little bit of that is true for the Avalanche if they're looking at defense and saying like, we might have some turnover on the defensive side of things. So we need to get a guy that is more ready than other defenders that are younger and a little bit more inexperienced. So let's go get a guy that had a good year, kind of turned a corner for, his most recent college year. And let's hope he can continue that. I kind of feel like where they're at right now. Because, you can't just say like, hey, our 3rd round pick is going to be our future, 3rd pairing guy. Like you're not really kind of drafting for that because you go address that in free agency, you go address that in trades. And if he's a guy that, just figures it out and cracks the roster, great. You look good. You look like a genius, but it's a wait and see thing. So He's got speed. He's got a shot. Like he's a pass first defenseman. So we'll see where he goes. The same thing with their 4th round pick. And people are having a lot of fun with this guy's name, but I think they're pronouncing it wrong. Linus, Funck is how you spell his last name, but it was pronounced Funsk is how you say it, from Sweden. So, Gabe's going to take him right under his wing. So same thing with him. Younger guy, but we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
And then for your 7th rounder, you took forward Nolan Rode. He's on the Tri-City Storm. And 7th rounders, again, he might get a shot, though. That's the thing. Like, you never know. Like, things could work out. The dominoes might fall where he gets an opportunity, and he's got to make the best of it. We'll just have to see when that time is.
Well, all 3 of them, they're in the prove me state. Like, we drafted you, like, prove it. Like, let's see. This is where you start stepping up now. These camps, development camps, preseason, this is where you step up. If you get the call, don't just breeze into it. You got to start doing the work now.
I think that's true for the number 1 overall pick, too. That's true for every single person that was drafted. So, speaking of this draft, went a different route for this one, and maybe the last time we go decentralized. So let's just talk about the weekend that was for the NHL draft, and we'll do that next. So the NHL went from maybe their best NHL draft at the Sphere in Las Vegas to this draft, and we knew it was going to be that way at the Sphere draft. We knew the following year, this year, was going to be what they call decentralized. And basically what that is all of you get the war. It's like the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of the front offices are at the location. They're all back at their arenas. They have their war rooms, and they call in their draft picks. And Gary Bettman announces, it was Gary Bettman, but celebrities announce it. Like we've gone crazy with that thing. We'll talk about all of that. But this was what the teams wanted. The owners and teams wanted to do this. And the league basically said, all right, we'll give it a shot. And I think even before the draft even happened, I think everybody was like, no, I don't think we were really liking where this is going. I think we're going to go back to how we typically do it. Everybody's there. And so next year, I think you're getting like the old school way of the NHL draft, which I love. I like that way. But I was open to this because the NFL draft is awesome. It's awesome to watch. And I'm not saying it can't work in the NHL way, but I think the NHL just kind of went a little bit too far in trying to make it a event like the NFL does, which you have to do in some capacity because you want people to watch it. But for me, I sat and watched the entire thing. For someone that is let me go tune into the NHL draft, they probably turned it off after not even an hour. And they were 5 picks in, 6 picks in after an hour. This thing just dragged on. Give me your thoughts on this, because it was a drag.
Yeah, and see, like I don't want to be like super critical on, because this is their first attempt.
Right.
And this feels like, again, I wish they didn't say we're going back to old school. I'd say give it another year. Like after this, like, hey guys, this got a little ridiculous. Like, let's clean this up. Let's tighten this up and give it one more go. And if it's still as long and drug out as this was, then that's when I say, yeah, you know what? Look, we let you have it 2 times and it was not as advertised. We're going to go back to the old school way because we have to draft and get on with the season. This is it's taking so long that it's going to bleed into the season. So
yeah,
I get it was rough. It was very hard to watch. It felt kind of fly by the seat of your pants, just production wise. But yeah, it was not enjoyable. But again, I don't want to say it was a failure yet, because I feel like they needed one more time through.
It's weird, man, because like I love this stuff. I love the offseason for moves and drafts. So like I wasn't bored watching it. I was just cringing at times watching it. Like that side room thing that they did where the player went in and talked to the front office, and it was just basically, oh, we were really happy to have you. I'm really happy to be a part of the organization. I can't wait to get started. We did not need that.
No,
and I can't believe that.
Yeah,
I can't believe at no point during this process did anybody say like we don't need to do this. So it like you can cut a lot of fat off of this thing.
Yep.
And I get why like the owners wanted to do it this way. It's number one, it costs a lot of money to send your whole front office team to wherever that thing is. But I don't care about that, because you're billionaires. Don't cry to me about money when every single person in this league who owns a team is a billionaire. I don't want to hear it. So that part, cut that out. Doesn't matter to me. The part that I get is because we have the season ending, and then, we have the draft relatively quickly, and then we have free agency starting in a day. So all of that stuff just happened. Like they get back to like their home city and have to kind of get everything in order for free agency. And it's a lot happening in a short amount of time. To which I say, don't end the season so late.
Yeah.
Start it earlier, end the season earlier, have more time between the Stanley Cup final and when free agency starts, and all of this stuff just kind of evens itself out. But this is the problem the NHL created, was to have the Stanley Cup end, draft happens a week later, and free agency starts 48 hours after that.
Yeah.
It's really easy to just give us more days to prepare for this stuff, even if it's an extra day.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, I'm not the one writing the schedule, but I mean, you should see this might be a problem.
Right.
And it is, and it should be addressed. And this should be something that, and again, also they got the CBA done during this as well.
Yeah,
like that's a lot of going back and forth, and that's a lot of people being pulled out of meetings, like union reps, and that's a lot. Like, it doesn't have to be like this. We could do, again, for the 7,000th episode of the row, the NHL needs to do a better job of scheduling things. So
where have we heard that before?
Yeah. And I feel like they when it comes to, like, when they have these great ideas, they always, it's too much fat, like the draft and their all-star games, and they do good stuff, and then they mess it up by getting in their own way and getting too carried away with it. So I feel like they need to fix the schedule. I wish they would give this one more shot and just clean out all that extra stuff. Just go basic and expand. Don't expand and then have to go basic. That looks bad from an outside looking in. Just go basic and build up. That's what the NFL did, and that's what everybody tries to model their stuff after.
Mm-hmm.
They started out very basic, and they blew up to what it is now.
Yeah.
You need to start that way. You don't need to start like the NFL. You need to be the NHL and be basic and grow differently. You don't want to be the NFL. Just start small.
And I don't need a celebrity to announce every pick. I don't need that.
I like seeing the Goo Goo Dolls.
I don't care. Like, if you want to do that, do it in the second round. Like, that's what the NFL does. First round is Roger Goodell, just comes out, announces it. Now, if you want to do something in the first round, you can do it a couple times, like Johnny Gaudreau's wife.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Like, do that. Have her announce it for the Blue Jackets. You know, if you want to get like a Make-A-Wish kid or something like that wants to do a thing in the, like, fine. You can do a couple of them. You don't need to do every single draft pick because then you have to announce that person, and then that person comes out and you get all of the, just want to thank LA for, like, I don't need to hear that 32 times. Get to the pick. And then we don't need the side room. That was just one of the dumbest things I think I've ever seen. So there, you're right. Like, you could just trim so much off of it. Just have Bettman go out there, make the pick. Kid comes down, puts the jersey on to the next one. And then you have your interview. If you want to interview him, ask him a couple questions, that's totally fine. But there was just so much going on where it just dragged it out. And it's like, I think it was almost 5 hours.
Yeah.
It was almost like you were rivaling the old NFL drafts when they had 15 minutes in between picks. And this was 3. Or they showed 3. I don't think they started the countdown for after a couple minutes. After they did the interviews and all that stuff, then they started doing 3 minutes. But good Lord.
Yeah, that's honestly, that would solve everything if the NHL just started out doing it. Like, look at the old NFL tapes, what they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. Start there. Don't start where the NFL is now, celebrities and goofiness, and, like, you're not there. NHL, you did not earn that yet. You have to start basic and earn the celebrities, because half of these you're like, I didn't even know he was a fan. I didn't even know he watched or she watched or participated. Like, you have to earn that first, NHL. Don't get ahead of yourself. Start basic and then go crazy. But no, don't do that side room thing. That was dumb.
No, please don't.
It's like Star Trek.
No more of that. And if you go centralized, you're not going to, because that's, that conversation, that awkward conversation is had on stage when everybody is there and you don't hear it.
Yep.
Because I don't need to hear it. I don't need to hear them say, we're happy to have you, and him say back, I'm happy to be here.
It just let it be a personal moment.
It's kind of known that you got drafted by a team. You're happy you got drafted by that team.
Yeah. Walk them off the stage and let it be a personal moment. Like,
right.
When you're walking off, it's like you're going behind the stage and you get to do your little Zoom call with everybody,
right?
Meet everybody, say thank you. They cut that call. They prep for the next one. It really speeds that process up. And I don't need to see it. It doesn't warm my heart any.
No, exactly. So, but I think it's going to be changed back. But you're right. If they did say, hey, we learned a lot from this one, we're going to give it one more shot, I would be okay with it.
Yep,
I really would be. But going back to what the normal way that they do it is also fine too, because that's how the NHL, nobody else does it like that. So it's kind of exclusive to the NHL to do it their normal way. So to go back to that, I'm okay with that too.
It didn't drag out like this during the COVID draft, I don't believe. And that was
pretty quick. Yeah. Because they were just having the war rooms announce who their pick was, and you didn't have all this stuff. So
there's a fine line. They need to find the middle between that,
the happy medium. Yeah. So, but we might not get it ever again, because this is just going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths for a long time. So
thanks, Gary Bettman.
All right, that is going to wrap it up for today. So we'll be back tomorrow. Anything going on in Avalanche world? If you're hearing anything right before free agency, we will discuss that on tomorrow's episode. So be sure to tune into that. But for this one, thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom. Kyle Sullivan. I'm Chris Maselli. This is Locked On Avalanche Podcast. And hey, maybe tomorrow, there was a lot of talk, Kyle, about being 24 hours closer with Sidney Crosby being in an Avalanche sweater. Are we heading down that road? We will be discussing that tomorrow.
Maybe physically sick.